I'm terrified. This could happen next door to my house, in my neighborhood. Like, my wife sits regularly in between the two houses and smokes late at night. This girl deserves justice. Whatever justice can be given in this world, she deserves it. My heart goes out to her family. I can't even imagine. I have a daughter myself, and I can't even imagine the grief that they're going through right now.
People have begun to speak out about the disturbing case of Dacara Thompson, and the chatter keeps growing. From what's been gathered so far, many believe that the involvement of Hugo Hernandez Mendez may not be an isolated incident at all. Their suspicion comes in part from a troubling discovery. Investigators reportedly found multiple pairs of women's underwear and lingerie in Hugo's room, pieces that seemed to belong to different women. Neighbors now wonder whether Hugo could be connected to other missing person cases that have been stacking up in the area. Still, there are puzzling details about Dacara's own actions that night. For instance, she willingly got into Hugo's vehicle, despite the fact that she had her own car fueled and ready to go. Why didn't she simply follow him in her own vehicle, and how did it not raise alarms in her mind to leave behind her phone, purse, identification, money, and car? These questions continue to circulate as people online ask what exactly Dacara and Hugo had in common and whether, like some social media speculation claims, she might have been meeting him for reasons not yet confirmed. Only the police, who have her phone in custody, can clarify what really happened, and reports suggest the information they've uncovered is chilling. One neighbor, Cody, who has lived next to the family for some time, shared what he witnessed in the early morning hours of August 23rd. Stepping outside, he noticed something burning in Hugo's backyard. The odor wasn't like brush or wood. It smelled more like trash, or something even stranger. Cody told detectives he suspected evidence was being destroyed. He specifically pointed out an ash pile that later disappeared, reinforcing his worry that something significant had been burned. What troubles many even more is that several people were inside the house while Dacara was being attacked. Considering the brutality of what investigators later described, many find it hard to believe that none of Hugo's roommates or relatives heard anything. Dacara's body was discovered unclothed and not wrapped, suggesting a struggle that should have produced noise. Detectives interviewed Hugo's roommates. One roommate reported overhearing what sounded like Dacara and Hugo having sex, followed by a strange, alarming grunting noise, enough to make them think someone might not have been a willing participant. Hours later, that same roommate stepped outside and noticed that Hugo's GMC truck, normally parked out front, was missing. This struck them as unusual because Hugo rarely left on Saturdays, and the truck was almost always in its spot. Two other roommates insisted they hadn't heard or seen anything, explaining their rooms were on the opposite side of the house from Hugo's. A relative in the home, who is Hugo's cousin, expressed shock that someone in her own family could be connected to such a crime. She said Hugo had been acting differently in recent weeks, and that she rarely saw him around. She even claimed she urged him to be honest if he knew anything about Dacara's disappearance. During the investigation, officers also brought in her husband and another family member for questioning. Both were released, but Hugo was not. To complicate matters further, federal immigration agents returned the next morning and arrested her husband on an immigration issue, though she insisted he had nothing to do with Dacara's death and fully cooperated with investigators. On August 31st, just before 5 o'clock in the evening, Maryland State Police received a call about a disabled vehicle along Route 50 near the South River Bridge in Annapolis. When troopers arrived, they found something far more horrifying: a body lying about 30 feet down the embankment. By September 3rd, detectives had met with Dacara's family and confirmed the remains were hers, identified through photographs, tattoos, and jewelry. The autopsy revealed severe skull and facial fractures, Dacara's father had reported her missing around 9 o'clock on the evening of August 23rd. He explained he last saw her the night before, August 22nd, when she said she was stepping out to get gas and would return soon. When she didn't come home, he called her, but there was no answer. The next day, when she still hadn't returned, her family used the Find My Phone app, something all 5 siblings share, and traced her phone to the intersection of Jasmine Terrace and Riggs Road in Hyattsville. There they found her car and immediately contacted police. A subsequent search warrant for Hugo's residence turned up what investigators believe to be Dacara's blood, a broken white and pink French, manicured fingernail, strands of hair, a wig, and other critical evidence both in the bedroom and in the trash. Detectives also recovered several pairs of women's underwear and lingerie. Based on these findings, authorities arrested Hugo Hernandez Mendez, charging him with first and second-degree murder in the gruesome death of 19-year-old Dacara Thompson. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, issued a detainer describing him as a criminal illegal alien, promising that justice would be pursued for Dacara's family. Investigators allege that Hugo killed Dacara in his bedroom early on August 23rd and then transported her body to the bridge along Route 50, where he discarded it. The case remains active. Hugo is being held without bond, with his next court appearance scheduled for October 8th. Meanwhile, public pressure is mounting for authorities to consider charges against the other house residents. Many argue it's implausible that no one heard anything, especially if Dacara was fighting back so fiercely that one of her nails was ripped off. The investigation into Dacara Thompson's death has continued to reveal unsettling details, and neighbors remain deeply shaken. Rumors swirl that Hugo Hernandez Mendez might have harmed other women as well, a fear intensified by the disturbing items discovered in his bedroom, specifically the multiple pairs of women's lingerie and underwear. To many in the community, these objects look like grim souvenirs, suggesting that Dacara's killing might not have been a single, isolated crime. This possibility frightens residents who are already on edge because several people in the area have vanished under mysterious circumstances. Some locals whisper that if the recovered lingerie is tested, it might link Hugo to other missing person cases. That idea alone has sent chills through the neighborhood, where people now watch every stranger with suspicion. Meanwhile, questions about Hugo's past have only deepened the sense of outrage. It turns out he has a long history of reckless behavior behind the wheel. Records show that Hugo racked up multiple arrests for driving under the influence. He also faced an open container violation for keeping alcohol in his car, a sign of his disregard for the law. Neighbors recall him blasting through red lights, ignoring stop signs, and making dangerous lane changes, as though basic traffic rules simply didn't apply to him. At one point, he was even caught driving on a suspended license. To many, this pattern of behavior paints a picture of someone who believed he could operate outside society's rules without consequence. Dacara's mother later said she was devastated to learn about Hugo's repeated brushes with the law and the fact that he was still a free man. Her heartbreaking comment captured the frustration of many. If the system had dealt with Hugo more effectively earlier on, Dacara might still be alive. "I am very disappointed," she explained, emphasizing that better enforcement of existing laws could have prevented this tragedy. While the legal system faces scrutiny, so does social media. After news of the case broke, cruel speculation about Dacara herself spread online. Some strangers suggested, without evidence, that she may have been selling sex, baselessly attempting to shift blame onto the victim. Dacara's mother pushed back firmly. She described her daughter as an outgoing yet soft-spoken young woman, a free spirit who was kind to everyone she met. She urged people not to believe everything posted on the internet, and asked the public to approach her family's loss with grace and compassion. Her plea resonated with many who believe the focus should remain on bringing justice, not on maligning Dacara's character. Investigators continue to piece together the events of that August night. They believe Hugo killed Dacara in the early hours of August 23rd and then transported her body to the South River Bridge along Route 50. The brutality of the crime stands out. Dacara suffered severe skull and facial fractures, and the evidence of a violent struggle is undeniable. A single broken fingernail, found during the search of Hugo's home, suggests she fought desperately to save her life. Many people argue this struggle must have created enough noise to alert others in the house, which raises further questions about the silence of the roommates and relatives who were present. Several neighbors maintain that the others living in the small home share some responsibility. They wonder how anyone could fail to hear signs of a fight or cries for help. Though a few housemates told detectives they had heard unsettling sounds that night, critics believe more is being concealed. Online discussions are filled with demands that these individuals be charged as accessories if evidence emerges that they stayed quiet to protect themselves or Hugo. As investigators sift through the growing body of evidence, community members remain uneasy. They can't shake the fear that Hugo might be tied to additional crimes. The fact that police found multiple items of women's clothing that did not belong to Dacara makes many believe other victims could exist. Law enforcement has yet to confirm whether the underwear and lingerie will be tested for DNA, but residents are anxiously awaiting updates. For Dacara's grieving family, every new development is painful but necessary. They hope that the upcoming court proceedings will provide answers and hold everyone responsible to account. Hugo currently remains in custody without bond, with his next court appearance set for October 8th. Authorities have also emphasized that immigration enforcement is involved, as Hugo is being held under an immigration detainer while facing charges of first and second-degree murder. This tragedy has become a sobering reminder of how quickly life can change and how crucial it is for the justice system to address warning signs before they escalate into violence. For many in the community, it's not just about punishing Hugo Hernandez Mendez. It's about ensuring that others are protected from potential predators who slip through the cracks. Despite the pain and speculation, Dacara's loved ones remain steadfast in preserving her memory. Friends describe her as someone full of promise and light, a 19-year-old with dreams that were cut short in an unthinkable act of brutality. They continue to call for respect and caution against spreading unfounded rumors. As the case proceeds, the focus, they insist, must stay on finding the full truth and delivering justice for Dacara. As the investigation moves forward, the community continues to process the horrifying events surrounding Dacara Thompson's death. Although authorities have arrested Hugo Hernandez Mendez, many neighbors remain convinced that the case reaches beyond this single tragedy. Their unease stems from the troubling discoveries in Hugo's bedroom: multiple pairs of women's lingerie and underwear that clearly did not belong to Dacara. To some, these items look like trophies, raising fears that Hugo may have harmed other women who have never been found. People in the neighborhood recount that several women have already gone missing in recent years under mysterious circumstances. The speculation only grew louder once word spread that detectives had collected the lingerie and would likely test it for DNA. Residents wonder if those tests might link Hugo to additional crimes. For a community already rattled by unsolved disappearances, that possibility is terrifying. Many also remain focused on the people who shared the house with Hugo. Critics insist it is nearly impossible for them to have missed the sounds of the violent attack that investigators believe took place in Hugo's room. After all, Dacara's injuries included severe skull and facial fractures, and a broken fingernail found at the scene suggests she fought fiercely for her life. a struggle that intense would almost certainly have produced screams or loud thuds. One roommate did admit to hearing what sounded like sexual activity, followed by unsettling grunting noises that did not seem consensual. Hours later, that same roommate noticed Hugo's GMC truck was gone, even though it almost always remained parked outside. Two other roommates told detectives they heard nothing because their rooms were on the opposite side of the house. Whether those explanations hold up under scrutiny remains to be seen. Online, many people argue that anyone in the house who heard suspicious noises yet failed to act should face charges as accessories after the fact. The legal process is now underway. Hugo has been charged with first and second-degree murder and remains in custody without bond. His next court appearance is scheduled for October 8th, when prosecutors are expected to present more evidence. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has also issued a detainer, calling Hugo a criminal illegal alien, and ensuring he remains behind bars even if other charges were somehow dropped. Investigators allege that he killed Dacara in his bedroom during the early hours of August 23rd, then drove to Route 50 near the South River Bridge in Annapolis and threw her body 30 feet down an embankment. For Dacara's family, the heartbreak is overwhelming. Her father reported her missing around 9 o'clock on the evening of August 23rd, explaining that he had last seen her the night before when she left to get gas and promised to return soon. When she failed to answer calls and did not come home, her siblings used the Find My Phone application, which all five share, to track her location. They discovered her car parked near the intersection of Jasmine Terrace and Riggs Road in Hyattsville, but there was no sign of Dacara. Days later, on August 31st, Maryland State Police received a call about a disabled vehicle on Route 50. When troopers arrived, they discovered a body about 30 feet below the bridge embankment. On September 3rd, investigators confirmed the remains were Dacara's, identifying her through photographs, tattoos, and her distinctive jewelry. The autopsy showed catastrophic injuries, including those severe skull and facial fractures, leaving no doubt she suffered a brutal attack. Throughout this ordeal, Dacara's mother has spoken out to protect her daughter's reputation. After cruel speculation surfaced online suggesting Dacara might have been involved in sex work, her mother described those rumors as baseless and deeply hurtful. She emphasized that Dacara was a warm, soft-spoken, and adventurous young woman, a 19-year-old with her whole life ahead of her. She pleaded with the public to approach the family's loss with compassion and to avoid spreading falsehoods. The tragedy has also sparked broader conversations about systemic failures. Many question how someone with Hugo's history of reckless driving and repeated arrests for driving under the influence remained free. His pattern of ignoring traffic laws, speeding through red lights, making unsafe lane changes, and even driving on a suspended license, painted a picture of a man who felt untouchable. Neighbors and Dacara's family alike believe stronger enforcement of those earlier charges might have prevented this horrific crime. Community leaders now call for vigilance and for improved measures to protect women from predators. They urge people to look out for one another, report suspicious activity, and demand accountability when warning signs appear. Advocacy groups have begun organizing local meetings, encouraging residents to support one another and to push for reforms that close the gaps that allowed Hugo to remain at large despite his dangerous record. As the legal process unfolds, everyone waits for the next steps. The court hearing on October 8th, the potential DNA analysis of the recovered lingerie, and any new revelations that might connect Hugo to other unsolved cases. Each update brings both dread and hope. Dread for what more may be uncovered, and hope that justice will ultimately be served. Through all of this, Dacara's family continues to honor her memory. Friends describe her as vibrant and loving, someone who brought light into every room she entered. They hold onto that image of her while enduring the painful reality of her loss. Their message to the public remains clear. Remember Dacara for the person she truly was, not the rumors, and let the investigation reveal the full truth.